Hey, what's up guys, Radku here, back with another Yu-Gi-Oh video, and today is going to be Gimmick Puppets. Now this deck is actually really cool. It's more like a rank 8 spam deck as opposed to a Gimmick Puppet deck, but the deck still works really well and accomplishes its goal really easily. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. Starting things off, I play 3 copies of Gimmick Puppet Bisque Doll. This card is special summon just by discarding a Gimmick Puppet. I feel like they could have made it just discard a card to special summon it. They had to make it difficult, but you know what? It's fine. It's still a great card for this deck. On top of the fact that it's just another free special summon. I play 3 copies of Gimmick Puppet Dreary Doll. We have cards in this deck like Condolence Puppet that can get your Dreary Doll in the graveyard, so that way you can actually use its effect. So this card, you can banish a Gimmick Puppet from your graveyard while this card's in the graveyard to special summon it. So like really you don't want to draw into it, like even though you do actually have a few plays when you draw into it, but it's still pretty solid as just a normal extender. And it's all in all a pretty good card. I play 3 copies of Gearspring Spirit. This card is like an honorary Gimmick Puppet. You can special summon it just by having only machine monsters in your grave. So, like, if you time this right, you'll easily be able to summon it. Like, it's a great card, because you really only have, like, you have your Ash Blossoms, you have your Dangers, and those are the only non-machine cards in the deck. So, like, really, you just have to time your Gearspring Spirit right, and you should easily be able to pull off its effect every time. I play 3 copies of Magnet Doll. This card's actually a pretty good extender for the Gimmick Puppet archetype, but it's actually really good for this deck as well. Just if you have a Gimmick Puppet on the field, it's a free special summon. And it's just a really solid card, and again, a great extender. I play 3 copies of Machina Cannon. This card's another special summon off of a discard. So, it just sends a machine card from your hand to the graveyard, which is pretty easy considering what deck we're playing. This card's actually, again, pretty solid. It's another just special summon that you desperately need in the deck. Plus, if you, discard a Dreary Doll, that's actually a really good setup. I play 3 copies of Macaroche. It's a level 8 monster that special summons itself and has a nice body, on top of the fact that it has a destruction effect. This card's really solid in this deck. On top of the fact that, again, it's a machine monster, so that means you don't really lose anything by playing it with Gearspring Spirit. So this card's like a really good card for this deck, and it's like a really good extender for any of your plays. Like, it could even be a starter if you wanted it to. This deck doesn't really have combos, it's just protect a Leo at all costs. I play 3 copies of Danger Bigfoot and 2 copies of Danger Thunderbird. They're like the few level 8 danger monsters, on top of the fact that now you can play Trade-in because almost all your monsters are level 8s. So this actually, these 2 sets up some nice stuff, especially with draw consistency. And just being able to special summon another card from your hand on top of that, because of how easy this deck can special summon from the hand, is really good. I play 3 copies of Ash, just a generic hand trap. You want to slow your opponent down enough to where they aren't going to be able to disrupt everything you do. I play 3 copies of Mystic Mine. Now, allow me to explain this. So, what you do is you usually end up going second with this deck. So what's gonna happen is your opponent can't really Ash you. You don't really have any decks or cards that summon from the deck summon from the deck that add cards from the deck other than Trade-in, Condolence Puppet, and Dangers. So really, you can just use Mystic Mine after you finish your combo plays, activate it, and then you can protect your Leo with it. Make sure your opponent can't really do anything. Make sure they have 3 or 4 monsters on the field. Make sure they just don't have anything that they can do about it. Then you slowly gain counters on your Leo. It's really good. Despite the fact that we're in a spell and trap format, this is still a really solid card and a great way to stall out, because Leo locks you out of your spell and trap card zone, but spell cards field spells go in the field spell zone, so it's a nice way of cheesing it, but like it's still a pretty solid card. On top of the fact that you have other cards like Condolence Puppet and Bisque Doll that can actually set up some protection, so that's really, really good. I played 3 copies of Tradin. This card is really, really good for this deck, especially since we only play level 8 monsters and Ash. So this card's really, really good for this deck, on top of the fact that it's not a once per turn, so this card's really good. I played 3 copies of Condolence Puppet. This card is like a hyper-powered Foolish Burial for Gimmick Puppets. So you can send Gimmick Puppets from your deck to the graveyard up to the number of cards your opponent special summoned from the extra deck plus 1. So either way, you can always send 1. And then you can banish this card from your graveyard. A Dark Machine monster, or one Machine Xyz monster cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects while it's face upon the field. So that's like the perfect protection for Leo. Leo has a lot of attack, so your opponent's going to have a hard time beating over it. And with this, your opponent can't really destroy it. So at that point, you basically have a an Ultimate Falcon that just can't, that is slowly chipping towards your win condition, and that's really, really good. I played 1 copy of Junk Puppet. This card's basically a monster reborn for the Gimmick Puppet archetype, and I felt like it's a nice one-off just to have another special summon, because you don't want to see it in your hand that much, because you don't really play a ton of Gimmick Puppets in this deck, but it's still a really good card. I played 2 copies of Rank Up Magic Quick Chaos Force. I didn't really want to focus on the chaos aspect of the deck, but it's still a nice part of the deck, being able to summon some pretty strong Xyz monsters with your Rank Up Magic cards. And Archean Chaos Force is banned, so you can't really use that, which is the one that was actually made for this deck, but it's still really good just to have another card to be able to do stuff with. And then I played 2 copies of Puppet Parade. This card's actually pretty nice. If your opponent controls more monsters, then you special summon Gimmick Puppets from your deck with different names. Then if your opponent's life points are 2,000 higher than yours, you can set a Rank of Magic normal spell directly from your deck. You could, again, like I said in the last video, you could put in Rank of Magic Variance Force, which is just another generic card, but I kind of liked Quick Chaos better, just because I could use it whenever I wanted to. So yeah, that is it for the main deck. Going into the extra deck, I played 2 copies of Gimmick Puppet Giant Grinder. This card has some just great removal, especially since we have some pretty crazy decks nowadays that use Xyz monsters, so this card's pretty good generically. I played 2 copies of Gimmick Puppet of Strings. This card's pretty good just for clearing fields. You just play string counters and then nuke the field. I played 1 copy of Leo. I'm thinking about bumping this up to 2, because unlike the last profile, this deck actually is made to support Leo, so even if your opponent manages to out your first Leo, you could still technically go into another one, so it would work, but I just didn't put it in here. Into the Chaos cards, I played 1 copy of number C15, Gimmick Puppet Giant Hunter. Detach an Xyz material, target a card, destroy it, and if you do, inflict damage equal to its attack. This card's really good. It's just a great card to just burn your opponent for a whole buttload of damage. On top of the fact that its alternative, Gimmick Puppet Giant Grinder, is still very good, but it only deals damage if it was an Xyz monster, so this card's really good. I played 1 copy of Gimmick Puppet of Dark Strings. Basically, you're supposed to put the counters on the monsters with Gimmick Puppet of Strings, then rank it up into Dark Strings, then you can gain advantage. When this card is special summoned, destroy all monsters with string counters, and if you do, draw 1 card. Then inflict damage equal to the highest attack. Then you can detach 1 Xyz material, place 1 string counter on each face-up card your opponent controls. That's actually really, really good for the deck. It just destroys your opponent's entire field. It deals them a ton of burn damage, and is just really, really good on top of the fact that it's a 3300 beat stick. Then I played 1 copy, number C88, Gimmick Puppet Disaster Leo. I don't know why people say this card is better than Gimmick Puppet of Leo. It burns for 1,000, but it doesn't really have any protection. Needs to be summoned with a rank of magic spell, can't be summoned by other ways. This card cannot be targeted. Like, I guess that's fine, but the thing is that who cares? Most removal isn't gonna be targeting. So like at this point, like floodgates are a huge thing in the game. So like it's not like you're losing a ton or gaining a ton by having a targetable monster. It's better to set up a condolence puppet protected Leo with a mystic mine on the field than it is to set up a disaster Leo, which needs your opponent less than 2,000, which is just not really feasible in a format where we have 8,000 life points. It just doesn't make sense. Onto the generic rank 8s. I play 1 copy of Hope Harbinger just to stop your opponent's spells, 1 copy of Lancelot to poke your opponent, 1 copy of Degirsu because generic, also it's like one of the best boss monsters in the game, 1 copy of Zombie-Stein. Now this might seem random, but this card's actually really good just to beat into your opponent. Like if you can summon it, you can just punch them and they'll die. And its effect is okay. Must be special summon. Xyz summon cannot be summoned by other ways. Once per turn during either player's turn, you can attach an Xyz material from this card. Send 1 card from your hand to the graveyard, then target 1 card your opponent controls. Change this card to defense position, and if you do, negate its effects until the end of the turn. So see, it's a pretty crappy effect. It just negates the effect of a monster, which is negatable. So it's okay. Plus it switches it to defense position, so you're hurting yourself more than you're helping yourself. So this card is okay, just as another beat stick, but it sucks. I play 1 copy of Chimera Doll. This card's great for just setting up another card for rank 8 plays. I play 1 copy of Platinum Gadget. This card, you can just sub it out for anything, but it's fine, I guess. I kind of just have it in here as a placeholder. We don't even play level 4 machine monsters, so it's kind of useless. And I played 1 copy of Boral Sword for generic OTKs. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the deck. Please like, subscribe, share, comment, let me know what you thought, and let me know if there's anything you would change about the list. Would you change up the Gimmick puppet lineup, add more actual Gimmick puppets, cut out the Danger Engine because it clashes with Gearspring Spirit? And yeah, that's pretty much it, and I will see you in the next Yu-Gi-Oh video. Peace, guys.